Today we will be taking a look at integrated information theory. It's a controversial scientific theory of consciousness that was proposed by Giulio Tononi in 2004. It has recently sparked a lot of debate, with some detractors calling it pseudoscience while supporters have responded in kind. Regardless if you agree or disagree with it, it is now one of the leading theories of consciousness in neuroscience and philosophy. We will start with an overview of integrated information theory, commonly abbreviated to IIT, discuss some of its implications from a philosophical point of view and then get into the war of words over this concept. IIT attempts to explain what consciousness is, what it is like to be conscious, and how consciousness arises from physical matter. It is based on the idea that consciousness is a property of complex systems that are able to integrate information from different parts of the system. It proposes that consciousness is identical to a certain kind of information, called integrated information, which can be measured mathematically using the phi metric. The more integrated the information is, the more conscious the system is. This has been mathematically formalized and has been used to develop computational models of consciousness. It is appealing to many philosophers because it offers a way to explain consciousness in a systematic mathematical form. However, IIT has also been criticized by some philosophers for its assumptions and implications. Let's take a look at these important philosophical implications. First, it suggests that consciousness is not a unique property of humans or other animals. Any system that is complex enough to integrate information can be conscious, regardless of its physical composition. This means that machines, such as AI systems, could potentially be conscious, if they are sufficiently complex. In this way, IIT attempts to solve the mind-body problem by proposing that consciousness is an emergent property of complex physical systems. Emergence is a phenomenon in which a system has properties that are not present in any of its individual parts. For example, the property of water is not present in either hydrogen or oxygen atoms, but it emerges when these atoms are combined in a certain way. IIT argues that only systems with high physical integration are capable of supporting consciousness. This is because only these complex systems can generate the kind of information that is required for consciousness. Next, IIT suggests that consciousness is a fundamental property of the universe. It is not something that emerges from matter or energy, but is rather a basic feature of all physical systems. This has implications for our understanding of the nature of reality and our place in the universe. This offers a solution to the mind-body problem that is attractive to some philosophers because it avoids the two main pitfalls of other solutions. First, IIT does not view consciousness as something separate from the physical world. This avoids the problem of dualism, which is the view that there are two distinct kinds of substances in the universe: physical substances and mental substances. Second, IIT does not view consciousness as a product of the brain's function. This avoids the problem of functionalism, which is the view that consciousness is simply a matter of performing certain functions, such as processing information. In a similar way, while IIT does not fully solve the hard problem of consciousness, but does offer a partial solution. The hard problem of consciousness is the problem of explaining why there is any experience associated with all the physical processes going on inside our brains. IIT argues that consciousness is identical to a certain kind of information, the realization of which requires physical integration. This means that while IIT can explain why consciousness is associated with physical processes in the brain, it cannot explain why there is any experience associated with this information. Integrated information theory also has a number of implications for the nature of free will. First, IIT suggests that free will is not an all-or-nothing phenomenon. Rather, it is a matter of degree. The more integrated information a system generates, the more free will it has. This would mean that even simple systems, such as bacteria, may have some degree of free will. Second, IIT suggests that free will is not something that is separate from consciousness. Rather, it is a product of consciousness. This means that we cannot have free will without being conscious. Third, IIT suggests that free will is limited by the physical laws of the universe. This means that our choices are not completely free, but rather constrained by the laws of nature. For example, we can't choose to do anything that is physically impossible. It also implies that our ability to exercise free will may be limited by factors such as duress or intoxication. Now, let's move on to the heated discussion over integrated information theory, starting with the arguments put forward by supporters. Supporters argue that it is a powerful theory, backed by a rigorous mathematical framework, that can explain a wide range of phenomena related to consciousness, including the subjective nature of experience, the differential distribution of consciousness in the brain, and the relationship between consciousness and information processing. They also point out that IIT has been supported by a growing body of empirical evidence, including studies of brain damage, anesthesia, and artificial intelligence. Supporters see consciousness as a unified experience. They contend that we do not experience our thoughts, feelings, and sensations as separate entities. Rather, we experience them as a single, unified whole. IIT can explain this unified experience by positing that consciousness is identical to integrated information. They point out that consciousness is subjective. Each person has their own unique perspective on the world. IIT can explain this subjectivity by positing that consciousness is identical to the information that is generated by a system's own internal structure. They also say that consciousness is not just a figment of our imagination. It is a real phenomenon that can be studied scientifically. IIT can explain the objectivity of consciousness by advancing the idea that integrated information is a measurable quantity. Detractors of integrated information theory argue that the theory has a number of problems, and some even say it is or borders on pseudoscience. First, they argue that IIT is too narrow. It cannot explain all of the different aspects of consciousness, such as qualia, the subjective experience of consciousness, and intentionally, the ability to be directed at things. They believe that the mathematical formula for integrated information is very difficult to understand, too abstract, and it is not clear how it can be applied to real-world systems. In other words, it's a fun math exercise but can't be applied to the real world. Detractors state that this makes IIT untestable. They argue that the mathematical formula for integrated information can't be tested experimentally, that it's just smoke and mirrors. They also point out that IIT has not yet been able to generate any new predictions or findings that could not have been made by other theories of consciousness. Some critics further complain that the theory implies panpsychism. This would mean that it's not falsifiable and can be used to draw implausible implications, such as rocks or thermostats, being conscious. However, even some detractors say that this might be an oversimplification and that some of the more mystical implications of IIT can be separated from the empirical parts. The conflict over integrated information theory really heated up last month, September 20, 23, as the repository of psychological sciences publications, with the support of over 100 scholars, declared that until IIT is empirically testable, it should be regarded as pseudoscience. Several detractors of the idea presented articles and papers in support of this criticism. Supporters of IIT responded by contending that the label of pseudoscience is often used to dismiss new and innovative ideas, even if those ideas are based on sound scientific principles. They argue that IIT should be judged on its own merits, not on the basis of whether or not it fits neatly into existing scientific paradigms. They believe the concept deserves to be considered and debated objectively by scientists and philosophers alike and not dismissed outright by what they regard as ad hominem attacks. It does seem like things will be spicy as this argument plays out. However, there are a few points worth noting. First, we have to consider that IIT is a relatively new theory, and it is still under development. This means that it is possible that the theory will be modified, enhanced, or even replaced in the future. My take is that the theory will be narrowed down to separate out some of the more panpsychism parts, like conscious rocks, from the mathematical models that might be useful for things like AI and psychological research. Next, IIT is a complex theory and, therefore, difficult to understand even for those with an academic background in both philosophy and mathematics, such as myself. However, if one is interested, it is worth investigating this theory to formulate your own opinion on it. My conclusion is that in spite of the controversy surrounding it, integrated information theory is one of the most promising and interesting theories of consciousness that we have. Developing these theories and discovering what works and what doesn't will be quite important in the field of AI. It has the potential to revolutionize our understanding of what it means to be conscious. However, care must be taken to separate the valid science and mathematical models of it from the more abstract, unfalsifiable elements. What are your thoughts on IIT, pseudoscience, or a valid theory that needs consideration. Thanks for watching. Please give us a like if you enjoyed this video and feel free to comment to let us know your thoughts on it. Also, check out our other study review videos on other philosophers and philosophies.